Cynthia found herself distracted once more, a fact quickly noticed by Emma. As Cynthia attempted to rise, her body refused to cooperate, frozen in place just as Emma stormed in, frustration lacing her tone. "Why are you lounging around? You're nothing more than a daughter-in-law here." Approaching Cynthia, Emma's next action was shocking. She snatched the cushion from beneath Cynthia, causing her to tumble onto the floor mat. In a reflex, Cynthia shielded her abdomen, only to feel the harsh blow of Emma's kick. "Get on your feet!" Emma scorned, eyeing Cynthia's pregnant belly with disdain. "That bump is nothing but a bother. You deserve another kick." Just when all hope seemed lost, a savior intervened, forcing Emma to sit and reprimanding her sternly. This brave soul rescued Cynthia from further harm. Cynthia, a 33-year-old expectant mother, faces health challenges during her pregnancy, but remains buoyed by the love for her unborn child and the child's father. "Are you all right, Cynthia? If you're feeling unwell, tell me immediately." A voice of concern breaks her reverie. Cynthia and her husband, Paul, are en route to her parents' home to share their joyous news. Paul, ever attentive, reassures and checks on Cynthia's well-being. Cynthia recalls Paul's joy upon learning of the pregnancy, his emotions running high regardless of the baby's gender, wishing only for the child's health. As they near their destination, Cynthia's nerves flutter. Unlike announcing the news to her own parents, this visit stirs a different anxiety. After her mother's passing, Cynthia's father single-handedly raised her and her brother. Cynthia adores her father and worried about leaving him alone after her brother's departure. Upon suggesting to her father that they live together, Cynthia was met with an unexpected proposal from him, revealing his plans to remarry. And now, as they arrive at her parents' house, her stepmother welcomes them warmly. "Hello, welcome, Mom. It's been a while." This rewritten version maintains the essence of the original story, while simplifying the language and making it more accessible, extending the narrative to offer a fuller, more rounded portrayal of Cynthia's experiences and emotions. Referring to her as Mom always felt a bit odd to me, especially since she became a part of my life after I had already moved out. Our interactions were few, and her demeanor was starkly different from my easygoing dad's. She was always more on the serious side, making her somewhat tough to get along with. Today, I had big news to share with my family. As we all settled into the living room with my dad and stepmom across from me and Paul by my side, the air was thick with my nervousness. "So, what's this big news?" my dad asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Taking a deep breath, I broke the news. "I'm expecting. It's still early days, but yes, I'm pregnant." "Really? That's wonderful news." My dad's face broke into a broad smile, his laughter lines more pronounced than ever, radiating pure joy. "I'm going to be a granddad, huh? Looks like it's time I embrace getting older." Paul and my dad were overjoyed, immersed in their excitement. Meanwhile, I tried to gauge my stepmom's reaction, but her face was unreadable, leaving me to wonder what she thought about the news. Suddenly, she stood and left the room, only to return shortly with a blanket and cushion in hand. "Cynthia, use these. It can get quite chilly in here," she said, handing them to me. A small wave of happiness washed over me, realizing she did care, despite her usually stern exterior. Yet, I couldn't help but wish for a warmer gesture, maybe even a simple congratulation. Such an act could have bridged the gap between us, I mused. We had planned to leave shortly after the announcement, but then my brother and his wife Emma dropped by unexpectedly. They lived much closer to my parents, making frequent visits a part of their routine. It was a surprise to see them, but it felt like the perfect moment to share my news once more. "No way, you beat us to it!" my brother exclaimed in mock frustration. Emma playfully scolded him before turning to me with a smile. "Firstly, congratulations, Cynthia." "Thank you," I replied, noticing that Emma shared a similar vibe to my mom's, direct and sincere, yet slightly imposing. "Actually, I'm a bit jealous. We've been trying to, but no luck yet. Seems we're just getting older," Emma added with a laugh, her tone light-hearted, yet tinged with a hint of genuine envy. "I'm only 3 years younger than you, so don't worry. You're not alone in feeling that way." I tried to offer some comfort, despite the complex emotions swirling around us. Emma often made such self-deprecating jokes, But behind them, I sensed a real desire for connection and shared experiences. Responding in such moments always leaves me at a loss for words. "We should probably head out now, Paul," I suggest, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on me. Paul agrees, and as we prepare to leave, both our families come to bid us farewell. A wave of dizziness hits me suddenly, perhaps a mix of pregnancy hormones and the day's stress. I grasp the handrail tightly, focusing on maintaining my balance. Unexpectedly, a sharp force jolts my right shoulder from behind, nearly causing me to lose my footing. "Ouch!" I exclaim, barely managing to cling to the handrail for support. "Sorry, Cynthia. I didn't see you there and tripped," Emma quickly apologizes, having been the one to bump into me. Her explanation puzzles me. We were simply walking down a straight corridor. If one were to trip instinctively, wouldn't they reach for the handrail or the person nearest to them instead of bumping into someone else, especially knowing I was pregnant? A shiver of apprehension courses through me, unsettling thoughts creeping in. "Sorry, you don't think I did that on purpose, do you? Please don't look at me that way," Emma adds, noticing my apprehensive glance. Despite my turmoil, I couldn't outright accuse her without any concrete evidence. Perhaps it was just an unfortunate mishap. With a heavy heart, we depart without further discussion. Back home, I ponder over the incident, wondering if my pregnancy is making me overly sensitive. My relationship with Emma has been generally amicable, despite certain challenging aspects of her personality. I try to shake off the uneasy feeling, convincing myself it was merely my imagination at play. However, this incident marked the beginning of several peculiar occurrences that gradually eroded my trust in Emma. The first strange incident involved my personal items at my parents' home being inexplicably discarded. My stepmom reached out to me after discovering familiar-looking clothing in the trash. "I found some of your clothes thrown out. What should we do with them?" she inquired. I asked her to leave them be until I could examine them myself. Upon inspection with Paul, it was unmistakably my belongings that had been tossed away. Both my stepmom and dad assured me they hadn't entered my room, let alone disposed of my items without my consent. So, who was responsible? The day before the trash was scheduled for pickup, Emma had visited, curiously on her own. As these thoughts raced through my mind, my stepmom offered a silent, knowing look, then voiced a sentiment that seemed to acknowledge the growing tension and suspicion, hinting at an underlying awareness of the situation's complexity. Reflecting on my concerns, I realized it might not have been fair to harbor suspicions without solid evidence. However, the advice was to inquire further, to understand better. What else can I do? I pondered, reluctant to cause any unnecessary drama. Deciding it was best not to overthink, I rationalized that Emma's visit was probably just a friendly gesture. Thankfully, the following period was smooth sailing. My pregnancy progressed healthily, and as I entered the 7 months, I felt more stable and stronger physically. Since Emma and I hadn't crossed paths in some time, my worries about her faded away. Then, an invitation from my dad came, suggesting Paul and I visit during the local festival, a tradition that brought our family together each year amidst the festivities. He mentioned that all our relatives, excited by the news of my pregnancy, were looking forward to seeing us, though he stressed the importance of prioritizing my health. Despite the challenge of standing for extended periods with my expanding belly, Paul and I decided to join the celebration. Our family's warm welcome and the shower of congratulations made me more active than I probably should have been. "You seem to be moving quite a bit. Isn't that uncomfortable for you?" my stepmom observed. Noting the tightness in my belly, I hadn't realized myself. Acknowledging her concern, I agreed to take it easy, and she guided me to a room with a mattress, suggesting I rest. The distant murmur of the celebration lulled me into a state of near sleep until a sudden tap on my head startled me awake. It was Emma, her expression stern, chiding me for resting when everyone had gathered to see me. Without waiting for my response, she pulled me back into the midst of our relatives. Caught in the circle of family, I couldn't express my need to rest and instead forced myself to smile and stay on my feet. However, my discomfort grew, and each attempt to excuse myself was thwarted by Emma, who insinuated that my desire for solitude was a sign of disdain for the gathering. Faced with such accusations, I felt trapped, unable to excuse myself without seeming rude, all the while feeling the strain on my health and the well-being of my unborn child. In an attempt to find a moment's peace away from the relentless scrutiny. I took advantage of Emma's brief absence to the bathroom to retreat to a quieter room. Desperate for rest, yet wary of further confrontation, I settled for sitting on a cushion I had brought with me, rather than lying down. The fear of Emma's return and the potential backlash of being found resting weighed heavily on me. Her earlier comments had already made the environment feel hostile, like a battleground where I had to constantly defend my actions. Despite my efforts to stay composed, the increasing tightness in my belly was a constant reminder of my vulnerability. At 7 months pregnant, the risk of premature labor loomed over me, adding stress to an already tense situation. The dilemma of prioritizing my health against the backdrop of Emma's judgment left me feeling trapped. Caught in this turmoil, Emma's sudden return caught me off guard. Her entrance was marked by a sharp rebuke for my attempt at rest, framing it as a failure of my duties. As she advanced, the distinction between family roles blurred in my mind. Here I was supposed to be a daughter, not merely a daughter-in-law subjected to such harsh treatment. Her actions escalated quickly, snatching the cushion from beneath me and causing me to fall. Instinctively, I protected my abdomen, a move that thankfully mitigated the impact of her kick, which was aimed maliciously at my belly but instead hit my hands. Her threatening posture and the looming second attack filled me with dread. Hindered by my condition and the shock of her aggression, my movements were painfully slow. Emma's impatience only added to the tension, her disdain palpable as she prepared to strike again. It was in this moment of desperation that a commanding voice halted the assault. My mother, with a look of fierce determination, intervened, positioning herself between Emma and me. Her concern was immediate, her questions rapid, as she assessed any potential harm to me and the baby. Despite my assurances that I was mostly unharmed, save for a minor scrape, her insistence on checking for herself was a comforting reminder of her protective presence. Reluctantly, I showed her the scrape on my leg, downplaying the injury. Yet, the significance of the moment was not lost on me. It was a vivid demonstration of the protective love of a parent, a stark contrast to the hostility I had faced moments before. As I tumbled, my primary concern was shielding my belly, leading only to a minor scrape on my knee. Though it was a slight injury, the sight of it made my mom's worry evident. She insisted on treating it, emphasizing the importance of my well-being, but her attention swiftly shifted to Emma with a stern glare. "Emma, take a seat over there," she commanded with such authority that Emma complied, her face drained of color. My mom then raised her voice, calling out Emma's actions, which sliced through the tension-filled room. Emma tried to justify her behavior, claiming she was merely adjusting the cushion, a feeble excuse that didn't hold up under scrutiny. It was clear to everyone that there was no need to straighten a cushion that was in use, rendering her explanation implausible. I chimed in, unable to hold back my disbelief at her rationale. Emma, unrepentant, continued to argue her case, seemingly unconcerned about the potential consequences of her actions. It was apparent she intended to deflect blame, suggesting my fall was due to my own clumsiness rather than her interference. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on me, the risk to my unborn child if I hadn't acted to protect us both haunting my thoughts. I was at a loss for words, my emotions tangled, as Emma smugly suggested we move past the incident, using the need to replenish drinks as an excuse to leave the confrontation behind. As she stood to leave, a sense of urgency overcame me. The thought of her actions going unchallenged, especially after endangering my baby, spurred me into action. "You kicked me," I found myself saying, causing Emma to pause and turn back in surprise. "What are you talking about, Cynthia?" she responded, feigning ignorance. "You did kick me, Emma. Whether you meant to pull the cushion or not, you aimed for my belly," I asserted, my voice stronger despite the turmoil inside. Emma's approach changed as she came back towards me, her demeanor shifting to one of flustered defense. It was a pivotal moment, forcing everything into the open, challenging the pretense of innocence she had tried to maintain. The confrontation was no longer just about a misunderstanding or an accident. It was about acknowledging the seriousness of her actions and the potential harm they could have caused. In the heat of the moment, the tension escalated as Emma attempted to silence me by covering my mouth. I teetered on the edge of losing my balance, but my mom was quick to offer her support, keeping me steady. Her sharp glance towards Emma was enough to make her halt in her tracks, retreating a few steps before sitting down again at my mom's calm directive. As the confrontation unfolded, Emma played the victim, tears streaming down her face, claiming my accusations were the result of pregnancy-induced oversensitivity and delusions. Her ability to manipulate the situation with her words and emotional display put me at a disadvantage, lacking concrete proof to support my claims. The fear of being overshadowed by Emma's narrative left me feeling helpless, contemplating a future overshadowed by unresolved tensions. However, a sudden movement from my belly, a kick from my unborn child, reignited my resolve. It reminded me of the strength I needed to muster not just for myself, but for the well-being of my baby. Drying my tears, I stood firmer, more determined than before. Emma, your actions have been consistently harmful towards me. From discarding my belongings to physically bumping into me, and now not allowing me any rest today. All these are not figments of my imagination, I stated with newfound clarity. Emma's shock at my assertiveness was evident, but I pressed on, refusing to let her disbelief deter me. Calling these incidents delusions is nothing short of shameless. I took a deep breath, facing Emma's mounting fury head-on. Raising your voice or using your words to intimidate might have worked before, but not against me, not now. I am protecting not just myself, but also the life growing inside of me, I affirmed, touching my belly as a reminder of the strength it gave me. Emma's anger was palpable, her readiness to retaliate clear, but the fear that once gripped me had dissipated. In that moment, I stood not just as a victim of her bullying, but as a mother-to-be, determined to safeguard the well-being of my child above all else. The tension in the room had reached its peak, and I found myself unable to hold back any longer. "Come at me if you dare," I challenged, bracing myself for what might come next. But what unfolded was completely unexpected. My mom suddenly burst into laughter. Both Emma and I, caught off guard, froze in place. After catching her breath, my mom shared an old saying, "A cornered mouse will bite the cat," then turned her attention to us with a more serious demeanor. "Emma, do you have anything else to say?" she inquired, after pointing out the absurdity of the situation. Emma tried to dismiss my accusations as nonsense, but Mom countered by stating her trust in her own observations rather than hearsay. It was then revealed that she had witnessed the entire ordeal, including the moment Emma demeaned me while yanking the cushion away. The realization that my mom had seen everything from start to finish left me speechless. Her subsequent apology for the shock this revelation caused me only underscored the gravity of the situation. Emma, realizing she had been caught in her lies in front of a witness, turned a ghostly shade of white. My mom then expressed her concerns about Emma's behavior towards me, admitting her hesitation to intervene without concrete evidence. But now, with everything laid bare, she commended me for standing up for myself, affirming her support in a moment that solidified our bond. In the aftermath, an emergency family meeting was convened, leading to the decision to sever ties with Emma. My mom took on the responsibility of coordinating visits to avoid any further encounters. My brother, confronted with the truth, was apologetic, recognizing the distress caused by Emma's actions, which were rooted in her own struggles with infertility. While I couldn't bring myself to forgive her, I did feel a twinge of sympathy for her situation. The birth of my child marked a new beginning. Paul's tears of joy and dedication to our newborn, despite his inexperience with everything but breastfeeding, filled me with love and gratitude. The challenges leading up to this point were significant, but I was aware that parenting would bring its own set of trials. This incident drew my mom and me closer together, ensuring that I had a solid support system moving forward. With their help, I was determined to provide a loving and nurturing environment for our child, embracing the journey of motherhood with all its joys and challenges.